What is something that you find terrifying that everyone finds normal? The Thomas the Tank Engine theme song. One time I was house sitting for a family and the power went out at their house. I was looking for candles down in their basement, and when I was walking back through the family room to go upstairs, I stepped on some kind of book, toy thing that played like a distorted version of the song. It scared me so bad that I dropped one of the candles. Somehow it didn't break. It probably wouldn't have been such a big deal except it started playing again randomly like 15 minutes later. I ended up putting the toy outside in the shed after it played the second time. That was 5 years ago, and even now when I hear the song or see Thomas, my heart starts racing and I have unpleasant memories of that night. I also feel like we view our atmosphere as a sort of bubble. It feels like we are closed in because we are used to it. But if you look into the night sky and really think about it, you're just staring into endless miles of literal fucking void that we are floating in. When I really think about it, it honestly gives my body the same sensation as standing on the ledge of a drop-off. It is so weird to me that we all bicker about the dumbest shit when we are meat sacks living on a floating rock in literal infinity. Debt is something that I feel like a lot of people are far too comfortable with. Debt is not fundamentally bad by any measure. In fact, many types of debt we're familiar with, like mortgages, are very good, allowing people to effectively leverage themselves to build lasting wealth. But it's easy to forget that this debt creates non-flexible liabilities that can easily overwhelm you if you're not careful and something bad happens, like losing a job. Debt is a tool, and you should always understand the dangers of a tool before you use it. Not much of a social media person either. Yeah, I browse Reddit, but I don't think Reddit is the same as FB, Twitter, etc. I don't need to know every detail about your personal life. You don't need to know every detail about mine. I will share stuff I find interesting, but none of it is super personal. I kind of feel like a lot of social media is invasive, and it's getting harder to be online in ways that are not invasive. Everybody and everything online tracks and sells your data. When my ex and I got married, we spent the night in a really cute B&B in St. Augustine. The honeymoon suite had a hot tub, and we were going to pretend germs didn't exist for a weekend. The pictures online did not depict what awaited us: a cabinet of the Victorian-style dolls. In the honeymoon suite, I'm not afraid of dolls, but small rows of lifeless eyes and lacy white dresses did not put me in a sexy mood. My ex had to put them all away in the dresser before I let him unzip me. Edit: I forgot, there was a guest book in the room, and the dolls were mentioned multiple times. I have a tunnel by my house that runs under a canal, and I have the same fear. Occasionally when you drive through it you'll have a drop of water land on your windshield. I'm sure it's not from the canal, but I can't help but think that anyway. They've been doing major construction on it for more than 2 years now, which isn't exactly comforting. Like, what is so wrong with it that it's taking this long to fix? It boggles my mind how many people I know that are so cautious in every other facet of their lives, but when it comes to childbirth/pregnancy/raising children, it's no big deal. I get wanting to have kids, well, sort of. Not for me, but for others, but I feel like even if I did want them, the risks of pregnancy and childbirth would terrify me way too much. Honestly, everything about pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding makes my skin crawl. As a woman, I'm told I'm supposed to desire to have a child, and nothing is farther from the truth. The thought of feeling something moving around inside of me, then coming out of my body and continuing to feed off me through lactation is so vile. I hate it. Also, so many things can go wrong during pregnancy and birth for the mother and child, and most women do not speak about it because they don't want to scare anyone into not having children. It also bothers me that people think that childbirth is meant to be this awful by design. Humans have a horrendous childbirthing process because of our species' bipedalism and large brain size. It hasn't evolved to be this way because it's better in any way. It just is this way because of the emphasis on those selective pressures. There's nothing more natural or efficient about this process. It's quite deadly, even with modern medicine. or their pets. Once my cat was biting her claws and pulling on them. I googled it to see if it was something I should worry about, and came across a forum post asking about the same thing, and an answer was something along the lines of "I do that when my mommy doesn't clean my paws very well," as if the cat was replying, and referring to the actual person typing it as their mommy. It was too much for me, but it did actually answer my question. Being drunk. I do not understand the appeal of getting completely plastered. 1 or 2 drinks for fun? Sure. Getting so drunk you start to lose control over your body? Get even drunker and you don't remember anything at all? No thanks, I rarely drink, and when I do it's never very much. Yet, I get so much hell for it. Just drink more, you're not drinking. Why not? It seems to be a foreign concept to many people that gasp not everyone likes to drink. I had a friend whose grandma lived with her. The grandma was deeply senile. She couldn't really walk, so she slowly shuffled and dragged her feet along the carpet. One day, she shuffled over a loose toothpick in the carpet. It lodged itself into her foot and went unnoticed for weeks. When they finally found it, the doctors had to remove it surgically and clean out a ton of pus. My friend said the pus ball was the size of a cigar. People say you get used to it and it becomes second nature. I'm still waiting. I have no idea how to know where my car's boundaries are in physical space, like if I'm going to scrap the side of someone else's car, go over a curb, bump into something in front of me, etc. I just wish you could drive in third-person view like in a video game so I could actually see where my car is, or have backup cameras on the sides and front too. The not-so-subtle effects of climate change. Oh wow, hottest day of the year. 2021 is not summer, right? Fraps and sunscreen peeps. I don't know. Every time I hear about these unusual weather patterns I just get this feeling of impending doom. Like our extinction event is just around the corner, and the best we can do is scatter to other parts of the planet that aren't burning, until one day, there won't be any place left. Edit. Thank you for the award. It's comforting to know I'm not the only who sees the way some news handles these signs as a bit dismissive. No matter how uncomfortable it sometimes makes me, I think feeling that discomfort is necessary to keep the number of people in this world who care about its preservation to the right level. I just hope we're not too late. Yes. I like the movie The Day After Tomorrow because the world is basically destroyed in less than a week through climate change, and the tipping point was a shift in an ocean current. Right now, the extreme heat and drought could cause wildfires that could take out the coast, and people will scoff until a wall of flames takes their city out. Death. But it not that scares me, it's the death of death. Even if one of the religions is correct and we either have an afterlife or are reincarnated, there will still be a day, even in billions of trillions of years, when the last star, last black hole and last atom diminishes. There will still be a day where the light is gone, and there is an actual day where no one will ever find you, because the universe is gone, all of it. Gone. No E.T. species will find you in the future because they themselves will be gone as well, because no one will ever see you again. We're the only atoms that knows we're atoms. Some say physicists have more existential dread and anxiety because they've seen what happens, because ignorance is bliss. Life. It's so easy to forget that no one chose to exist, yet we only live for an extremely short period of time in which there isn't really an objective or meaning. I struggle to believe that before and after life there is just literally nothing, because to see/feel/be nothing just feels completely impossible to me. What color is nothing? What does nothing feel like? If it is nothing forever, then why am I living right now? What caused nothing, me 100 years ago, to become something, me now? I've also managed to convince myself many times that every single person, being on this earth that I have ever encountered are just imagination. The scary part is I will never be able to prove that someone else is actually real and experiences things the way I do. Pre-existence nothing is easy to fathom. You just skip to existence. Post-existence nothing ... man. Juxtaposition to existence makes all the difference in the world. As for everyone else possibly not existing, I used to disregard it. Yeah, you can't prove there is anyone in anyone else's driver's seat, but it's one of those things you just accept. But even though there is no hard evidence for it, I have accumulated some soft evidence. Certain things in life surprise me in the way a dream could. Donald Trump running for president. Donald Trump getting elected. These things are crazy, but it's not inconceivable that it's something I could just make up. However, some people's decisions are things I would never in a million years consider. People in dreams could not surprise me as much as certain people have. So I reason that they are at the very least a figment of an imagination that isn't mine. So someone else is out there, and the simplest explanation is that the people are really in there. People who think it's funny when their kids say devastating things to adults because it's wise beyond their years. My wife's best friend's kid is 6, and he asked the janitor of his school how he had fallen so far, from military vet to school janitor. I'm the last person to defend the military, but that's a fucking evil thing to ask someone, no matter what age you are. His mother laughed it off and the school made him apologize. But every person I've heard the mother tell the story to has thought it was funny. I'd about you, but I'm kind of scared of being cheated on. Never dated anyone before, but I've always heard stories about people getting cheated on around the internet. Didn't scare me at first, but then I read a story that involved someone who's married and his wife cheated on him. And this was like, maybe 20-30 years into marriage. I don't want to experience something like that ever. And this kind of hit me hard. I started going around the internet looking at dating advice, wanted to start cooking so maybe my future GF would like me more. Even wrote a list of things I must do to actually secure the perfect relationship. I have gotten better now, but I still kind of researched advice for my future self. A lot of things terrify me, but the lack of empathy of people in general, or myself sometimes, is something I want to mention. I've seen this so much online in things like harassment of people in masses. It's easy to forget sometimes that it's still a person you're talking to. And offline things aren't better either. The times I felt disturbed by people that have unironically said some horrible stuff about ones that ended their own life, without even knowing them, is astounding. Children are so creepy. Their brains aren't fully developed, their skeletons are all whack, they outrank us in bone number, they manage to make the most sinister and unexpected statements without knowing what it means. My little siblings may be adorable at times, but my little sister, 4, once said to me, whilst brushing her teeth, "I am going to die one day. You will too?" And lists our family members. All I could do was say yup, sweetie, and nope my way out of that room ASAP. Children are creepy. Yep, I don't mind driving, but I strongly dislike riding in cars. It's an even split between a lack of control and getting carsick easily if I'm not driving. Highways actually are at the bottom of my fear list when I'm a passenger. The worst is busy city streets, especially when you're dealing with cyclists and pedestrians on top of stoplights / merging / turning / narrow lanes. My 30F partner of 6 years, 34M, has never had a car or even a license, and people often ask me, doesn't that bother you, that you always have to be the one driving? No, it does not. Only being able to access the world via our electronic devices, being unable to communicate, understand, or interact without our phones, having an online identity that is more real than our actual physical presence, missing what we can see and taste and touch because it is not filtered through the alternate reality of our devices. Aging. I want to happily live forever. I wish heaven was a real place we'd all go to, but since it cannot be proven, the next best thing is to try to live forever. I don't want to grow old, and I don't want to die. I've thought about this since I was 5 and learned about the concept of aging, dying, the afterlife. I thought we were all guaranteed to die of a heart attack at age 70 or 100. And even though I know there are better and worse ways that we'll all die, I just can't accept it, and I want to do something about it. So I'm slowly breaking free of my slave labor work life. learning how to code and design, and eventually I'll finally have the money and free time to really just learn all the math, physics, engineering, and biological sciences I'll need to one day cure aging, or at least contribute to ending it, and maybe contribute to the science of preserving frozen bodies for a future revival. Every day I think about what my life will be like a few hundred or thousand years from now, or more. Whenever I am revived, I'd want to continue learning and contributing to science, as well as just enjoying being alive, having fun with friends and maybe my future descendants, teaching what I know, learning what they know, exploring and discovering things together, role-playing in futuristic VR games. I just want to keep existing as the same being, and I want to help others continue living if they so choose as well. Death shouldn't be inevitable and unavoidable, it should just be optional. Chair lifts at ski resorts. It feels nothing out of the normal once you get used to it, but when I started working at a ski resort and I saw a kid slip under the restraint bar, fall 30 feet and bounce when he hit the ground, it was a real wake-up call for me. I still use the lifts when I go skiing, but I always have that image of that kid falling in the back of my mind. Also, the kid was okay after, just a few broken bones. Used to hate having my mouth and nose covered at the same time. Was constantly worried I was about to pass out from rebreathing my breath anytime I had to wear a dust mask or tried to put my face under the blankets at night. Pandemic took care of that real quick. Wore a mask for 4+ hours at work every day, no problem. Bonus points, I fell asleep with my whole head under the blanket the other day. That's been my #1 irrational fear since I was a kid. How we let our families treat us and we go back to them, many times pretending like it didn't happen. Cutting of my mom was the best I've ever done, and it does terrify me how many kids grow up being taught that abuse should be tolerated and forgiven, and when something happens, you can act the same after half an hour or so. The whole situation with family dynamics and relationships that's still being passed on, and it's truly scary to find out, when you get older, how screwed up some people are and others make excuses for them. Firing a handgun. I was pretty anti-gun in my leaning, but since I had never actually fired a handgun before, I did not feel I had much say in the matter. I've heard so many people say just try it, you'll love it and see what it's all about. I went with some friends to an indoor firing range in Las Vegas, and spent about 10 closely supervised minutes firing a WW2 Air Luger and a SIG, and I found them both terrifying. I turned out to be a pretty good shot, once I got the hang of it, but the power and the recoil were way more than I ever imagined. I could not imagine carrying one around with me, or keeping one in my home, and being able to use it at a moment's notice. The thought of other people doing it is scary. I am firmly anti-gun now, at least when it comes to handguns. The fact that a lot of Americans support intervention in the Middle East despite the fact it has not led to peace, and now the American media may be trying to convince Americans that China is a threat to their freedoms, which is a way to manufacture consent for war with them, even though China is not a threat to us at all. Oh, and also the fact that people actually believe that China would specifically target America with the COVID-19 outbreak despite the fact that every country has COVID-19. How the tactics George Orwell are used so easily by the Democrats and their pet media. Not that the Republicans wouldn't, don't, haven't and won't, but the Democrats are supposed to be above that. But it's okay with rank-and-file Democrats now because we're right. Resisting Orwellian practices was supposed to be the thing that distinguished free-thinking liberals from crazy conservatives, communists, and actual Nazis. The normality of far-right politics in the U.S. and the fact that Republican politicians can say anything as long as it's horrible enough and receive thunderous applause. People like MTG, who compared mask mandates to the Holocaust, are still running like a headless chicken. The lack of political education is a huge problem, and it's scary that if a lie gets repeated enough, no matter how contradictory it is to actual beliefs of the ideology, it becomes fact to some. Education in general has failed miserably thanks to biased political insertions. Really simple shit like healthcare, housing, and food being a human right is seen as political. That shit's insane to me.